Hey guys, it's Keith here and I'm very excited to be showing you this one as we take a very cheap unit and bring it to its maximum potential. That's right, we're going to be using the Motomech division here, featuring a lot of BMP-2's very cheap units as well as a variety of infantry to play with. We're going to be fighting in Kadaga here, focusing on the left flank, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be fielding a lot of BMP-2s today. It's going to be a cheap unit but highly effective when you can get it in the proper positions. It's not going to be a spammy tactic, but we're going to use them to flank around the enemy's backline and become a genuine menace to deal with. So without further ado, I hope you sit back, relax and enjoy the show. And with the start of the game here, we're going to be bringing out the Su-27SM, the legendary flanker from the Russian side here. We're going to be joined by our teammate Su-35S, as well as a MiG-35, or might be a MiG-29K. I'm not sure about that, but plenty of variety on our side here as we charge our flanker directly into the air spawn of the enemy, trying to see if we can spot any targets, any aircrafts, or even helicopters that the enemy might be bringing in over in Kadaga right now. But our Su-27 is going to be turning around before being spotted or spotting the enemy F-22 Raptors. Double pink F-22 Raptors going to be charging towards our Su-27SM right now. We're going to be turning that flanker around and trying to launch a couple of missiles towards these Raptors here. Unfortunately, our Su-27 does take a shot, and the second missile from the F-22 Raptor is going to be eliminating our flanker. Fortunately for us, the teammate's favorite destroys one of the Raptor here, as the teammate's Su-35 is going to be finishing off the second Raptor. So a relatively decent start in the air attacks here, as our ground forces now makes their way towards the objective point. We're going to be playing on the left side here, focusing mostly on the hotel sector as well as the Alpha objective. Teammates' cargo plane now is going to be airdropping a lot of units into the Alpha sector. Plenty of VDV Dush, Verba teams as well as Spetsnaz team, but the neon green player also wanting to do the same is going to be diverting his plane away from that objective at the very last minute. That's a good sign of a player who's paying attention, so we want to be making sure that we spread our units apart and keep them in relatively good positions. Our BTR-82 is going to be carrying double Eagler teams here. These Eagler teams comes equipped with 2 launches, so it's going to be a potent manpad squad against enemy helicopters. We're deploying one here just so that we can cover the center here from any potential enemy helicopters that might be popping up. As we can see, the red player does have a helicopter, the Black Hawk now over on the side and the left side here. We're going to be deploying the second Eagler team, occupying this building, and hopefully both of these teams are going to be able to take down that Black Hawk. BTR-82 is going to be pushing up towards that tree line here, getting eyes on the open ground to see if the enemy might be bringing in any forces here, as our Euro, carrying plenty of infantry, follows behind. The enemy manpad squad reveals its own position after firing towards the teammate's cargo plane, but not before our teammate manages to offload all of his units here. Plenty of Thessanikis, Chernivs, Verbas, so a good mix of infantry to cover our left flank. BTR-82 is going to have no trouble dealing with the enemy Humvee that was trying to retreat as we push our Euro forwards and then covering the enemy manpad squad. I'm not sure what the name of that manpad squad is. At this point, I did initially wanted to deploy my units directly into the manpad squad, but I have opted to instead hide that information from the red player and keeping my units inside the Euro until the enemy units has been dealt with. The reason why I want to be doing this is so that I can withhold that information from the red player as long as I can, and deploying my units into a better position that so that we might be able to ambush any potential units that might be coming our way. A big fight going on in the Alpha objective now, so teal player is going to have a good time holding that position, as the red player brings out a bunch of Warden-Spikes here, and previously mentioned infantry is going to be in a perfect position to ambush one of them. BTR-82 is going to take the opportunity right now to charge out into the open and eliminating both of these Warden-Spikes. So we're going to be coming off to a very fantastic start here as we eliminated a lot of the red players' units from the very beginning. Orange and pink player working together now, offloading a lot of ranger teams, ranger squads into the alpha objective. So our teal player is going to be temporarily pushed back and losing that objective right now. Our Eaglers managed to take down the enemy cargo plane, so we're going to be using one of the Eaglers now to try and capture or eliminate the enemy pilot. Red player's Albatross now flying overhead is going to be engaged by our Spetsnaz GRU as well as the Eagler teams that are still at the back here. The Spetsnaz did manage to take down the enemy Albatross, but in doing so reveals its own position, so we're going to have to move the Spetsnaz deeper into the forest and hide away, break line of sight, get them to safety as the enemy Leopard is a very dangerous threat. Seeing that the enemy Leopard now is moving towards my BTR-82, we're going to have to move our BTR away from that front. And escape the tank's engagement. Eagler teams here just having a good time shooting the enemy pilot, totally not a war crime. As more reinforcements now belonging to the teal and our side and ourselves here arrive to try and recapture the alpha objective. So my infantry over on the left side here are in the forest, holding a position, hopefully to secure that front so that any enemy units that might be coming around, such as the red player now bringing a couple of wolves here, definitely packing a lot of infantry, can be ambushed and intercepted. Nevertheless, we do have the S-300 in station as well as the BMPs now pushing towards the alpha objective. The enemy wolf team did manage to escape, but and our Spetsnaz GRU was unfortunately taken out, so our units kind of missed that opportunity to ambush some of these enemy units that are pushing in. Nevertheless, we're going to try to push our BTR-82, see if we can take out these enemy transports. Pilots finally getting eliminated by the arrival of these BMP-2G's. Now these are the stars of the show today. The BMP-2G's are very cheap but highly efficient units to have in this deck, and obviously we're not going to have any APS here on these cheaper BMP-2Gs, so we're going to have to make sure that we play them efficiently. But you can see with long range firepower here, we're going to be able to provide some support, but thankfully we did not make the same mistake as the enemy players and pushing our BMP directly into the objective. However, we've instead used the Motostrelki to push up in front, with our vehicles here holding back to provide longer range support. Our teal player here trying to push into the objective is going to be pushed back right now, but the incendiary bomb is now quickly burning away at the ranger teams that are holding that or trapped inside that burning building, unfortunately. So they're going to be quickly burned to crisp, with the Tunguska providing a lot of firepower in the back as well. You can see right now I'm pushing out a lot of my Motostrelki out into this position, trying to occupy the sides of the building as the enemy has a lot of infantry still inside the alpha objective. We're going to be using our BMP from a distance here, providing long range support, as that's generally what you want to be doing. Even though if you have the mass of units here, it's always good to keep them alive and use them in the perfect position. However, all of that is going to be a moot point because our teammate here has decided that the nuke would be a perfect solution to this present problem here, and it quickly eliminated a lot of the orange players, as you can notice that there were a lot of orange skulls popping up on the screen right now. With the enemy dropping a nuke and eliminating most of the enemy's units inside the objective, our Motostrelki is going to be pushed up ahead and starts capturing the alpha objective. And this is the time when you want to be pushing out your units when the enemy's forces has been quickly eliminated. You want to take the opportunity to move your units up closer towards the front line and even beyond the front line, capture better locations, better positions, and prevent the enemy from pushing up ahead. Our Kozlik here did manage to spot a couple of recon units belonging to the enemy players, so we're gonna have to quickly take them out. Teal player on the right side here pushing his units forwards is gonna be engaging the pink player's last remaining ranger squads, and it's gonna have no trouble dealing with that infantry squad. So a little bit about the deck here today. I am playing with the motorized mechanized division group here, but my focus today is going to be solely on those BMPs and the infantry play. So I have a lot of BMP-2s available to me, and I want to be using them in a way that I can well, not to say mass produce, but I can bring in a lot of BMP-2s to cover a large amount of ground here, where our infantry would be perfect in this position, where we have plenty of cover in these buildings and tree lines, able to really punish the enemy units from pushing in deep to our position. I think a lot of players would consider this a very broken tactic. But having a large number of units here is actually one of the strategies that the current war has been using, and the only caveat here is that I want to be making sure that I keep my unit as live as possible, as even though these BMP-2Gs are relatively cheap and expendable, they are pretty effective and very efficient to use when you use them correctly. In this case, we're going to be using our BMP-2s in a very good way, as you're going to see in a bit. Red player now making a push into the hotel sector from the left flank here, so the neon player is going to have a handful defending that sector against the red player's approach, as the orange and pink player now performing a deep deep assault into the objective immediately. I think the better way to have done this would be to deploy units into the outside the objective and push the infantry together. But the enemy has decided that the dive all your units into the sector in the center is the better solution. So we're going to be punishing that with the Vasiliyok. The Vasiliyok is a 82mm mortars here. As you can see that I have two of these Vasiliyoks. We're going to be launching a lot of mortar rounds into the enemy forces here. BMP-2 that is pushed up way to all the way to the front is going to be used sneakily, as we did manage to see a bunch of missiles coming from this direction. So we're going to use our BMP-2 capturing the enemy supply dump and pushing up ahead to see if we can capture or eliminate enemy supporting assets. This could be PAC-2s or even the Gimler's MLRS systems here. More reinforcements coming in from the orange and pink players, so we're going to have a fight in our hands here, as our reinforcements also arrived the field onto the front, and more BMP-2s now trying to putting a lot of damage into these enemy infantry taking cover inside the alpha objectives. The BMP-2G's does not have APS, but it does come equipped with an autocannon as well as the grenade launcher and a Metis launcher on the top of its turret here. So it's going to be providing a lot of firepower into these enemy units, and it's going to make our job a lot easier, especially when the teal player is pushing up his units to secure the objective. This hero BMP-2G did actually manage to find an enemy PAC-2, so we're gonna commit that BMP further into the front lines here, as double Commanche belonging to the pink player now charges into the front, and it's going to be quickly ambushed by my Tunguska as well as the Igla teams. Unfortunately, our Tunguska does get taken out very quickly, but thankfully our Igla teams were in a position to quickly eliminate both of the enemy Commanche. As this hero BMP-2G's still continues to be a very pesky unit to deal with, does take out the enemy GMLRS, and it's going to be engaging the enemy Commanche, but thankfully the Commanche flies overhead. So we're going to be taking both of these War Pigs LMTV out with no problems. As you can see, the availability, the BMP-2Gs cannot sustain multiple hits from enemy AT or well, tank shells, but when you use them in a way that a single BMP-2 in a perfect position can cause a lot of damage. Obviously right now you can see that this BMP-2 has been harassing the enemy backlines, the reinforcing units now, and the pink player's PAC-2 or PAC-3 has just revealed its position, so our BMP-2 is going to be able to destroy that PAC as well, as our Vasiliyok provides a lot of mortar shells raining down onto this remaining Ranger squad, BMP-2 is going to be pushing in to finish that unit off. It's the Pack 2 in the back distance there, gets destroyed by our hero BMP, and we're going to have a very good time securing the front again. You can see the BMP-2's grenade launcher as well as the autocannon quickly eliminates the enemy rangers, but the pink player now has deployed his forces, doing the smart thing and moving his Osprey out of the way, but the orange player failed to respect the BMP-2. It's going to be pushing his Commanche directly on top of the BMP-2, and he's going to end up losing that Commanche. Red player did have a sneaky infantry unit here that pushed up in the front, bypassing our units that were protecting the tree lines there, and it's going to be destroying our S-300. This BMP-2 is going to be eliminating the last remaining ranger team holding the alpha objective, so we're going to be capturing that. As you can see, I have all my infantry, I have several infantry inside these tree lines here as we finally captured this position. And we're going to be moving the ATGM squad into position to overlook and cover the road ahead. Orange players still making the same mistake at bringing units across this line here, as our BMP-2 continues to be a pesky threat, eliminating a lot of the enemy units here. I'm going to be taking that advantage. So I'm happy to commit the BMP-2 in this manner, because the BMP-2 is very cheap, so it's expendable, but the value that this BMP-2 has been given back is just immeasurable, I think. More BMP-2s now pushing towards the front, and as always we want to be covering the open area. The orange player now has decided that it is its time to nuke the alpha objective. Does take out a few of our units here, but fortunately does not do too much damage to our side of the forces here, so we managed to get off or get our units to safety. Nevertheless, we're going to be bringing in more reinforcements to secure the front once again. You can see once we've secured the alpha objective, we want to be pushing our units forward, and the best way to do this is to just move them into a position where you expect the enemy might be coming from. And in this case, we have plenty of T-72BAs to support our BMP-2s. The BMP-2s are hiding in the tree lines here, overlooking the open ground, especially the road here. And we do manage to catch the red player by surprise, and he's going to be moving his units away from that road, but directly into some of our units here who are also in position to capture, ambush these units in moving away from the front lines here. We're going to have to move our BMP-2s away as they're going to be targeted by the enemy artillery, obviously. So our ambushing force also providing a lot of fire here, the Nuke with their thermobaric launchers, but the appearance of the pink players, Bookers, M10 Bookers here, are going to be a dangerous threat to our BMP. So we're going to be losing our BMPs to those tanks, but not before punishing the red player for moving a lot of his units out in the open like that. So we did end up losing most of our BMPs over on that pink player's assault, so we're going to be pulling back right now and strengthening or redeploying them into secondary defensive positions, as our tank now move into position, and our tanks are far better suited to be engaging these M10 Bookers, either from a distance or up in a close range. The Strumoki squads here is going to be engaged by the enemy Leopard that just showed up briefly. Our Pulumachiki actually managed to launch an AT rocket into the tank, slightly weakening it, but it's not going to be able to penetrate through that Leopard's armor. But what's gonna be more cheeky right now is gonna be the BMP-2 on the backlines there, providing long-range Metis ATGM, striking the enemy Leopard squad, the Leopard tank. Again, more reinforcements, infantry now coming into the positions. We're gonna have to strengthen our positions here, as the enemy already has a lot of M10 Bookers and is undoubtedly gonna be bringing in more units. Our BMP-2G has been proving itself immensely in value, but unfortunately unable to take out the enemy's Leopard 2 tank. As the enemy, the pink player now commits his 10 bookers, our neon green player also performing a lot of airdrop, well, a solid airdrop here, plenty of units now in position. Unfortunately, he's gonna have to keep them into these buildings here as cover, so we're gonna be moving our tanks into close range to try and support our teammate here. The Cornet ATGM is going to be engaging and destroying some of these LNTV reinforcements as our anti-air defense, the Iglas, as well as Tunguska. Well, I've lost my Tunguska, but the Iglas here are going to be able to destroy the pink player's Commanche. BMP-2 on the left side here, still providing a lot of ATGM, trying to hunt down the last tank as our T-72 launches its shell, and it's going to be swiftly destroying the enemy Leopard. I think the orange and pink player here has been largely impatient, playing very impatiently with their forces, so they're performing a lot of tactics that are otherwise not really efficient. They're just simply diving their units into position, hoping for the best, and pushing their units head on towards our defensive positions here. So a little something for all of you who are watching, I think a good tip to have would be to take it slow, be more patient, because I think if the orange and pink player had more patience, build up the forces, secure the positions slowly, they would have been able to ideally overwhelm our units and engage our forces here more efficiently. Nevertheless, with our forces now kind of battered, with the sudden appearance of all the enemy units pushing out, we're going to be moving our tanks back to the resupply point to get them fixed up and patched up. Our T-72 unfortunately was not moved after firing its shell, so it's going to come under fire from the massive amount of enemy artillery now shelling our positions. It's cornets. Now it's going to have to move away from the cluster shells as well. Our Vasiliyok did manage to eliminate 3 of the enemy mechanized infantry squad, so we're gonna have to move them away as well. So you can see that I'm constantly just shifting my units around from different positions, making sure that they don't get targeted by enemy artillery. Excuse me. But I noticed that our left flank here is unprotected right now, so we're gonna have to shift our attention slightly towards the left side, especially towards the hotel sector. As the orange player now brings up a couple of recon, these are I think Bradley B-Fits here, recon variant of the Bradley, so we're gonna have to be careful as most of our infantry here is battered and is in need of supplies right now. Our Pulamacheki is in the center position here, overlooking the road, but it's not gonna get any target into the Bradleys, but the enemy makes the mistake of moving his Bradleys directly into the position where Neon Green has a lot of units that are equipped with these AT launchers RPGs, and it's going to quickly destroy the enemy Bradleys. Running low on munitions and manpower here. Well, this unit here is gonna have to fall back as the pink player now brings in bring in a lot of recon strikers here. Just in the column formation, it's going to be engaging our BMP-2G's. We do not have the units here to receive that push, as some of our units are now forced to push to the left side here to defend and try and recapture hotel from the red player. Kudos to our teal player here, who has managed to move most of his units into these tree lines ahead of the alpha objective here, and it's going to be in a perfect position to receive and ambush any approaching units. We're going to see that in a bit. As for now, the pink player has a lot of a couple of Rangers RRCs, as well as supported by these strikers here, so our tank is going to have to really hold the line here. These javelins are a dangerous threat against our BMPs, as the BMP is again very weak and it's not going to be able to withstand or hold up against enemy AT launches. So quickly, we're losing our units actually very quickly to these strikers, as well as the approaching RRCs. We're going to have to be tactical about our movements here and make sure that we delay them as long as possible, as more tanks now are coming into position to reinforce our units. Over in the distance, you can see that teal player is now in a perfect position to be receiving the orange player's tanks. We're going to quickly see the tanks getting ambushed as they move blindly towards the road here. Neon green player is already recapturing hotel for us, so we're going to take this time and opportunity to push our units forward, try and eliminate the pink player and the red player's forces that are on our side of the line. A massive detonation of our previously dropped off supply dump is going to be helping us destroying some of the enemy units here. Teal player is still dealing a lot of damage, and the orange player is failing to respect that. Is continuing his push into the center here with all of his units. So definitely a mistake on the orange player side. The low end of forces here, our T-72BA is going to be pushing out and covering one of these Jalave Jagu. These are Baltic units that are equipped with the spike launchers, so somewhat similar to a mechanized infantry team from the US side, but against double heavy tanks here, they're not gonna be lasting a lot. With the orange players' forces severely depleted here, battered by our teammates over on, by our teal player here, we're gonna have a good time securing our position on the left side here. We're gonna need to bring in more reinforcements right now, as the red player has a lot of troops in position. So we're gonna be temporarily retreating, delaying them as much as possible until we have the necessary critical mass. As more reinforcements are now coming into the sector here to defend our positions. All throughout the front, I think our teammate has been doing exceptionally well, holding the center as well as the right side here, right side of the flank, the map here. So a lot of the actions has been focused on us, and thankfully our opponents here, especially the the orange and the pink player, were not doing a very good job, I think, at assaulting our position. So definitely makes our defense a lot easier. Vasiliyok is going to be launching a lot of mortar shells, eliminating the enemy wounded infantry that was hiding out in that building there. As our Euros here offloads his units, and it's going to be swiftly returned back to base to get refunded. We have brought up a couple of vampire teams as well as mortar strelkies, plenty of sappers. These are sappers equipped with the thermobaric launchers as well as Spetsnaz GRU. So a lot of these units here are designed to engage the enemy tanks and vehicles from this distance, as this whole area covered with buildings provides a lot of cover and opportunities for us to hide our units in and receive the enemy's push. Over on the left side, we can see the enemy moving his tank here as a nuke goes off in the center. We're gonna continue our assault and defense into the red player on the left side here. I think this deck has a lot of potential. It's a pretty fun deck to use without relying on APS a lot, because none of our units actually have any APS. So these T-72BAs, they're relatively cheap tanks, but they can do a lot of damage when used correctly, similarly to our BMP-2s, who are not equipped with any APS at all, so we're gonna have to be careful with those. Infantry providing a lot of screening and defense against these units here. So I think definitely there's a better way to use them, this deck, but thankfully for me, this is a pretty fun game to play and a nice time trying out the deck for the first time at the very least. And all of a sudden the enemy team has surrendered, and there we have it, a victory, and we did relatively well, I think. So 7,415 kills, 3,495 deaths with a good ratio of 2.12. A single medal, which is the highest kill medal, so that was a surprising thought at the very least. So in this game we demonstrated that the BMP can be used pretty efficiently, even though they're cheap They're relatively weak towards receiving damage, but when you use them in a hit-and-run tactics and getting behind the enemy lines, it's definitely a major threat to any enemy forces. I hope you enjoyed this, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.